If I had one phone to take into the apocalypse, it would be the Ulefone Power Armor 18T. This device has it all. A durable, rugged design, massive battery, thermal imaging, and an endoscope attachment. I'm James Bruce. You're watching Make Use Of Reviews. Let's do this. Also, thanks to Ulefone, we are giving away one of these Power Armor 18Ts to a lucky reader. Click through to the review to enter the competition, which will run for a month. But please note, this hasn't affected my opinion of the device in any way, and Ulefone haven't paid for this review, nor did they have any say at all in the content. So before we get on to the design and usual specs and stuff, let's talk about the headline feature that separates the Ulefone Power Armor 18T from the regular 18. Thermal imaging. The Power Armor 18T is equipped with an official Lepton 3.5 FLIR sensor, which is the latest version of the embedded sensor with a resolution of around 160 by 120. I say latest, it's not particularly new. It's a few years old now, but it is the latest version available, and it's the best you'll find embedded in a smartphone. For a higher resolution, you'll need to purchase a dedicated FLIR branded device. Usage is simple. Just open up the My FLIR app. You can't use the IR sensor in standard photos or camera apps, but you shouldn't need to. The FLIR app offers a variety of overlay, augmented reality, or pure thermal modes, along with various options to measure points, area averages, that sort of thing, or adjust the scale and color range. Now, I know that some people think that thermal imaging is a gimmick, but for any number of professionals and even home users, I think it's a surprisingly useful tool. If you're a professional, I don't need to patronize you and tell you why it's useful. Of course, electricians, builders, you know why it's useful to your job. But if you are someone who thinks it's a gimmick, then perhaps I can change your mind. On a home level, it can be used to identify areas of your home that are desperately in need of insulation. You can always pay for professional surveys to find this out, or you can do it yourself. Just turn on your heating really high on a cold winter day and look through the IR camera for hot spots on the outside of your home. Ideally, you want your home to appear cold on the outside. That means the heat is staying in. So if you can see it leaking out somewhere, that's a good candidate area to think about insulation, either internal or external. It can also be used inside the home to locate pipes or wires under plasterboard. It's not foolproof, but you'll often see a temperature differential there, so it's a good tool to combine with stud finders, that sort of thing. You can, at a glance, see if your radiators are faulty or need bleeding. You can identify damp spots that might not even be visible to the naked eye yet and deal with them before they become mold. You can also identify electrical issues with overheating devices, finding faulty components, that sort of thing. Or perhaps for hunting and pest control, you can use the thermal imaging to locate small animals that think they're hidden behind brush and then deal with them. Thermal imaging is a killer feature, and if there's one feature I think all rugged phones should have, it's this. But with that out of the way, let's delve into the numbers and specs. So the Power Armor 18T features a massive 6.58 inches IPS LCD panel with up to 120 Hz refresh rate support, running at full HD plus resolution or 1080 by 2408 pixels. This is protected by the king of durable displays, Corning Gorilla Glass 6. But there's also a screen protector pre-applied and an even more protective, thicker, tempered glass screen protector in the package, if you'd rather use that. The display can reach around 500 nits peak brightness, which is more than enough for outdoor use. That said, it has a good amount of black space around the screen, so the overall size of the phone can be a bit deceptive. Now, featuring a massive 600 mAh battery and huge screen, this is naturally not a small device, measuring 83mm wide or 3.3 inches by 175mm tall, 6.9 inches and almost 19 millimeters or 0.75 inches thick. And that weighs in at 400 grams or 14 ounces. And that's without the case. Speaking of which, as an optional added extra, you'll find a protective accessory case for the 18T. And while yes, it is a bit weird to put a protective case on an already rugged phone that can supposedly handle anything, it's best to think of it more as an accessory adapter or connector thing. Once fitted into the case, you can then use a selection of a belt clip or buckle, carabiner, to secure the phone onto your belt or otherwise. And there's even a separate adjustable mount that you can clip into. Great if you need to secure it into your vehicle. That's also a separate optional bit though, but they're not expensive. For me, the added protection doesn't matter, but the belt clip and carabiner alone are worthwhile. So internally, the phone is powered by a MediaTek Dimensity 900 chip model MT6877, which isn't a powerhouse of a chipset, and it's even superseded by other Dimensity chips, let alone the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. So don't even think about comparing the performance of this to flagships. However, it does support 5G and Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth up to 5.0. There's a dual SIM tray for 2 nano SIM cards or a nano SIM plus a micro SD. However, it doesn't support eSIM. And the 256 gigabytes of internal storage should be ample. 12 gigabytes of RAM is also provided for speedy UI work performance. Unfortunately, I'm in a very rural area and I'm lucky if I get 1 bar of 4G, never mind 5G, so I can't test the speed of 5G for you. But I should imagine it's no different to any other 5G phone. As for buttons and ports, in addition to the usual USB-C charging port on the bottom, up top you have a 3.5mm audio jack, both of which are covered up with rubber flaps. And on the side you have an optional accessory port for the endoscope, as well as a customizable orange function button. While on the right hand side you have the usual volume and power button, and the fingerprint sensor is built into the power button, which I found was generally working well and was responsive. Now also inside the main box you'll get a nice yellow USB-C charging cable, plus a 66-watt PD charger and a lanyard connector. Okay, onto design and ruggedness. With IP68 and 69K ratings, it's built to withstand a good deal of rain or even complete submersion for up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes. That'll work. Ah yes, let's use the poo shovel. Oh, where are you? Aha. Okay, yeah, that's minging. I mean, it's fine though. Even some water jets, as well as complete protection against dust ingress, assuming you have all the ports correctly covered up. As well as that, it can handle high temperatures and drops of up to 1.5 meters, so yes, you can put it through a lot. The design of the rear of the phone is a sort of dark grey, hard plastic shell with a series of indented diagonal lines and prominent screws around the edge and what feels like a silicon bumper. And that results in a really industrial aesthetic that appeals to me. The brushed metal around the camera island adds to this, and the flash module finishes the diagonal pattern in this unusual triangular layout. The 18T is, however, only available in this colorway. Now, in terms of raw performance and benchmarking, it's obviously not a flagship phone, nor does it feature a flagship CPU, so your expectations should be tempered. PCMark, however, gave a score of 10,056, which is pretty respectable. It's in line with a Google Pixel 6a or Galaxy S10 Plus, or even a Doogee V30, which has the same Dimensity 900 chip, so pretty much what we'd expect. On the 3D Mark wildlife test, the device achieved 2160, while on the continuous stress test, the loop score varied from 2168 to 2178 with a 99.5% stability. So quite unimpressive low-end scores for graphics, but at least consistent. There was no obvious thermal throttling going on. Meanwhile, Geekbench gave us a paltry 664 single and 1948 multi-core, as well as 2551 GPU compute score. So, decent enough scores, but nothing particularly impressive. However, out of the box, you may find that it feels a little bit sluggish, and that's because it defaults to running at 60 Hz. It's usable, but something feels a bit off, so you can go into the screen settings and manually enable 120 Hz mode, and suddenly it all feels like a more smooth, modern, performant phone. But bear in mind this will affect battery life, so if that's your priority, then leave it at 60 and just put up with a slightly less smooth user interface. So onto the imaging systems. On the Power Armor 18T, you have a triple lens setup, but it's quite a unique and interesting triple system. We've talked about the FLIR thermal sensor. That's one of the three, but then you have the main 108 megapixel camera, which we'll come to in a minute, as well as a super macro 5 megapixel camera with 30x natural zoom. And this is actually like a microscope with a very short fixed focus. In other words, you have to put it right next to the object to get anything useful out of it. Otherwise, it's just a blurry mess. And it will illuminate the subject with its own ring of lights around the lens. Most of the time when a phone says it includes a macro lens, it usually means a sort of variable focus, but somewhere between 10 to 20 centimeters, say. But this is literally a shove it right up there kind of thing. The results you can get out of it are certainly interesting, but a very niche use case, I think. Perhaps someone who repairs electronics a lot might find it useful. It's a weird inclusion, I think, and personally I would have preferred a wide-angle lens, but purely in terms of utility, rather than taking pretty pictures, it's a good choice. Okay, so on to the main camera. It's 108 megapixels, it's reasonably good quality, f1.9, and it's the same camera sensor again as you had in the Doogee V30. However, as ever, the megapixel count is misleading. For instance, my iPhone 13 Pro Max is a mere 12 megapixels, and the output from the Ulefone Power Armor 18T is certainly not 10 times better than that. In fact, I'd struggle to say it's better at all. You can see some comparisons on screen now. It's not a bad video and photography system by any means, but I definitely prefer the output from my iPhone. Compared to, say, the Vivo V25 that I reviewed and was absolutely blown away by the lenses there, the main camera on the Ulefone 18T is nothing outstanding. It gets the job done, and I don't have any specific complaints about it. It's just not that good. In order to use the 108 megapixels, you'll have to actually activate it from the camera app, so shoot in the high-res mode. It's not on by default. In terms of video, it can record in 4K resolution at 30 FPS. However, there's absolutely no image stabilization, so you can see in the demo here, side by side with the iPhone, what a difference that on-camera stabilization actually makes. Now, around the front is a 32 megapixel selfie camera, and the same pretty much applies there. So just let me show you an example. So as a quick video quality comparison for the front selfie camera, this is me talking into the Ulefone Power Armor 18T on this side, while on this side, I'm talking to the iPhone 13 Pro Max. As you can see, there's a fairly big difference in image quality, but the other thing to note is that the 18T is limited to 1080p and 30 FPS, while the iPhone can record 4K up to 60 FPS, though for this test I've set it to the same 30 FPS. I think the results speak for themselves. Again, it's entirely passable and nothing too much to complain about, but nothing outstanding either. To my eye, generally, the video was a little bit dull and kind of lifeless, but usable. For a rugged phone, this is, acceptable, but it's clearly not an area that Ulefone have decided to focus on. Now, as an optional extra, but incredibly useful, I highly recommend picking up the compatible endoscope, of which Ulefone sells two models, the E1 single camera and the E02 dual camera module, which is what I have here. To attach this, you just unscrew one screw from the side using the included screwdriver, then hook this on and screw it in. Now, this model features a camera on both the front and the sides, each of which has LEDs to illuminate and a physical button to switch between each camera, as well as a 2-meter bendable cable. In addition, the package includes some interchangeable ends, a hook for picking up keys and such, a magnet, or a protective case. It's just a really useful accessory and not something that you'll find on most rugged phones. In fact, I think Ulefone is the only manufacturer that offers that. So onto software and UI. The 18T runs mostly stock Android 12 with a clean and unbloated UI. As far as I can tell, it doesn't come with any pre-installed crapware, and you have full Google Play support for all of your favorite and familiar apps, so full marks there. Swipe left your standard Google home feed, pull up for the app drawer and customize your home screen with whatever. It's not entirely stock, of course. You'll find the usual rugged toolbox selection of apps, which are actually useful, and the My FLIR app, which is essential for using the thermal imaging system. But other than that, I can't see a huge difference, and I was quite comfortable with it. This is what an Android phone UI really should be, and I appreciate that. Okay, how about battery life? The 9,600 milliamp hour battery is by any definition enormous, 3 to 4 times the size of your typical smartphone. Ulefone quotes 39 hours of talk time and standby of up to 524 hours, and I'm afraid I don't have 524 hours around to test that, but it certainly lasts a long time. A full charge using the built-in charger takes around 1 hour and 20 minutes, which sounds long, but remember, it's a huge battery. In real-world terms, playing a video, the phone will last up to about 30 hours. Intensive gaming will drop that down to about 15 hours, neither of which are actually likely to do in reality, so it's going to last a few days for you with normal usage, at least, if not a week. So, is this the ultimate rugged phone? $700 plus any of the accessories that you pick up is not a cheap smartphone by any means, and I can't convince you to buy this purely on performance. That's not to say it performs badly, but it's a mid-range performance phone at a premium price because of the extra features. The ruggedization is a given in this device, so we won't dwell on that. You are paying a slight premium for that added durability, sure. The main camera is decent, but the real selling point is the thermal imaging. On a rugged phone for professional or even DIYer sort of use, that is really useful. The microscopic camera is a little bit more gimmicky, but I'm sure someone will tell me in the comments why it's useful, though, perhaps diagnosing component issues with electronics, that sort of thing. But on top of that, Ulefone is, as far as I know, the only manufacturer with an endoscope attachment available. So in terms of imaging, I mean, this one device can do every sort of photo or video that you might ever need to do. Sure, wide-angled cameras and extra zooms are nice, but only for pretty pictures, not for actual utility. Other than that, you've got that audio jack, which I'm sure some people will appreciate, the enormous battery so you don't get caught short while in the field, and the accessory case to secure your device or even to mount it. As a package, you've got an incredibly compelling, durable device packed with useful features and massive battery life. This is the one phone I would take into the apocalypse, and I suspect it would survive longer than I do. Until next time, you've been watching MakeUseOf.com reviews. Please be sure to hit like and consider subscribing for more reviews and giveaways. And don't forget, if you head on over to the written version of this review, you'll find an entry form where you can enter to win one of these for yourselves.